Brian says this, and this makes sense to me. Okay, so in your early years before you got to me, you were sleeping with everything that was around. And now you get to me and say, I really, really like you and hated all those guys, but you have to wait. From the perspective of the man, that's pretty brutal, right? That's a pretty brutal thing to say. It's like, you like me, but I have to wait to experience this. But these other guys you didn't like, didn't have to wait, can make that make sense, right?
Well,
and I
there wasn't
actually haven't
multiple-
heard a great answer yet for this.
I feel like a woman would be trying to do that to try to create value for herself in his eyes. If she had done this before, but is like trying to change her ways and show this to him, that he would value her more and be more likely to date her rather than, oh, I can just hit it and quit it tonight and never talk to her again, because maybe she's really into Brian and really wants him to value her and see the worth in her, so she's trying to change her way in that way and have him value her that way.
I don't think a woman, by withholding sex, has ever negotiated her way into a long-term relationship by simple virtue of her withholding sex. Because I think what would either happen is that if he's interested in you and he'd be inclined to have a relationship with you, it's not clear to me if having sex with him will prevent him from still wanting to pursue a relationship with you.
I think in some guys it will.
But then wouldn't
that's
it just
just
be a
preference.
manipulation tactic?
Could be.
So isn't it a false? But this is where he stalemates it and why it pisses me off, because of that answer, right? So that answer is what it creates value for me in his eyes, right? Okay, but if it didn't, if that didn't, would you still sleep with him the first night? And the answer is, well, yeah. It's like, so then aren't you faking virtue? And that is
really
when,
good point.
and that's when
But that goes
Brian
into if
says,
She doesn't
wait,
want to
so-
sleep with him on the first
No,
date.
no, but
Let him finish.
Yeah.
But hang on. So what Brian says here, right, as frustrating as it is, because I don't have the great response to this, how's that not faking virtue? If she, and so remember the entailment here is, I do this to create value for me in your eyes. But if that doesn't create value in my eyes, but instead sleeping with you creates that value, would you do that? The answer would have to be yes, because that's what you're creating the value for, right? And he says, well, then you're faking virtue. And it's like, I don't know how to get around that exactly.
That's a good point.
It's a good point.
I think like her level of comfort also makes sense, though, that she's not going to want to sleep with someone after a first date, after what she's been given, the experience she was given.
I
put
also-
through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not even disagreeing that that's true.
Or not knowing what his
Yeah,
value
I'm
is
not-
gonna
also
be.
wanna
I'm not
say
disagreeing
that
with this at
I
all.
don't
I think it's like a comfort of
set
Yeah.
a time limit where I tell them like, I'm not sleeping with you till we go on 5 dates. I purposely don't on the first date, and like if it feels right, I not on the first date, but like I don't put a time limit on it. It's basically what I'm saying.
Well,
Just-
listen, I understand, because what you guys are doing is you're individualizing this, which is fine, right? You can individualize it.
It's a
Maybe
good
their
point.
preference isn't this. I agree with you, right? But if it is that I'm making you wait, not because I wouldn't sleep with you if I thought that created the value, but instead of making you wait because I think it creates value to you, for me, that I don't do this, then I don't see how an entailment of that isn't I'm faking virtue. I can't see how to rationalize. Can you?
The only thing that makes me think, the only way I can rationalize it a little bit, and I don't even think I agree with it, I'm just trying to like put the pieces together in my brain, is if you are going out with the intent to prove the virtue to yourself and not the man, you're going out there to prove
But
it.
isn't that cope?
I
totally
that's,
cope.
That's what I'm saying. The only way I can rationalize it in my head is like you have, I don't know, some come to Jesus moment and you realize this is how you're going to rationalize it to yourself moving forward. But I think Brian's got us there.
Yeah,
I think
it's a bad one. It does. So I'm going to destroy this argument. Not today, but I will.
Or
it is a
worrying about
stalemate
screwing
because it's true, right? If the answer is I would do this if I thought this was more pleasing. Instead, I'm doing this because I think to him it creates more value. He sees me differently. And if we took that out of the equation, I don't see how it's not faking virtue.
But this
think
this
it's
also has to
Faking
be
it, I think
this,
it's just unsure.
I'm also I'm also doing it to like not get myself hurt, because for me, when I do sleep with someone, I normally get feelings for them. So like waiting will help me like see if this person is someone I actually really do want to date.
But so here's where it gets complicated, right? So this whole waiting for sex thing becomes a bit more believable when a woman has a track record of upholding it. But you said that, so this guy who you've currently been seeing, you made him wait 5 dates, if I recall?
Probably about, I didn't like say 5 dates, but like
that's what
I'm
happened.
estimating, yeah.
Okay, but then in between that, you said there was one guy who you hooked up with immediately.
Yeah.
So it's not an actual value you hold. It's just sort of this arbitrary
Can't her
thing.
values change?
Yeah,
Couldn't she have had a
this
different
happened-
value
So
when
like
she
snip,
first
snap,
slept with the
snip,
guy?
snap, back and forth. So
That
one
doesn't sound like
day.
a snip snap. It sounds like she had a bad experience.
No.
with a
But hold
man.
on. So this is the timeline here, and I don't know the full timeline because I don't know all the people you've dated. Lost your virginity quickly. Made this guy wait 5 dates, and then
I was in a long-term relationship
But further,
before that.
okay, I know I'm excluding things. Then further along in the timeline, you reverted back to sleeping with somebody quickly. So that is a back and forth.
Yeah.
Lost her virginity easily. Made this guy wait 5 dates. One night stand or whatever it was.
Yeah, and that's definitely like,
That's a flip flop.
it is. And I've been trying to better myself in that way because I don't want to just give it up on the first date. So like I've been actively working on it. I want to have that value, but sometimes like my self-esteem gets low, and a lot of the times like when I have sex with somebody, it brings it up for some reason. I can't say exactly why, but
Makes
that's
sense.
just how it is. I know that that's not necessarily a healthy way of thinking, which is why I'm actively trying to change
Well,
it.
so here's kind of, I guess, the perspective that I'm trying to get at. So if I can sort of flip the script a little bit, this would be like a guy saying when it comes to like, okay, you have casual sex with these guys in your past, and then the guy who you actually want a relationship with, you make him wait. Be like me saying, you don't understand. Those women were just for hookups. So of course, I have notes on this. I'm going to be reading off the notes. Of course, I bought them expensive stuff. I took them to the best dining places. I even paid their bills. But you're different from them. I actually see you as a potential girlfriend, wife. So you have to wait for those benefits. So we should go out to McDonald's and you should pay, by the way.
Once again, I'm not purposely making them wait.
Are you
I see
just
your
going
point.
on dates
I
with
see your
women
st-
that have?
Yeah, no,
Right.
I understand
Like,
the
tell me.
point as
Like, I
well.
see your-
And I'm trying to explain myself like
That's crazy.
my values have changed since that time. So, yeah, that's all.
No. I think Brian, we got to get a stalemate on that.
Did you have something on this? It sounded like you had something on this. You?
Me?
Yeah.
Healing is not a linear process, so it makes sense that she has to take steps back to take steps forward. Because we were talking about the flip flops, but it's a very, very common occurrence when
Oh,
someone is
no.
changing their moral view that they're going to fall back on it
Sure.
and they're going to change.
Right.
And that's
but
okay. That's
so-
part of growth.
Yeah, that's cool for her, but I'm trying to explain the male perspective and why a guy might view this as bullshit or frustrating. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
she
also-
can
I
do
totally
whatever
see
she
that.
wants.
I think if a
She
guy
can do whatever she
truly,
wants.
genuinely values you and wants to be with you, then he will be willing to wait. I don't think a man that is unwilling
Sure.
to wait, I think that says a lot about who they are as a person,
Right.
a
and
lot
I
more than
think-
the woman.
I think a woman who truly likes you, even though she knows that you treated every single girl prior to her that you've been with, whether it was long-term relationship, or maybe we can even exclude long-term relationships, and she knows that you've had, some casual hookups, one-night stands, and you would pay for the date for the casual hookups, you would bring them on trips, you would do all these things, you would provide, you would protect. But now that all of a sudden he really likes you and you really like him, he wants to actually pull back on providing. He doesn't want to pay for dates for you because you're the one. You're the one, but he doesn't want to provide. And you know that all his prior relationships and girlfriends and women he's hooked up with got far better treatment, you wouldn't be upset about that as a girl?
Yeah, but I think that's a very different
How
than,
is that-
than
how's that
waiting for
different?
someone to have sex with you.
How
But
is
it's a
that?
priority.
Because I
but
don't think
it's
that-
an analogy, so it's not
Yeah.
a one-to-one.
Yeah.
It doesn't, what's the term? It doesn't like print on one-to-one.
I just don't think it's fair to
It's not
assume a
typical,
woman.
really, yeah.
I don't think it should be expected of her to give it up easily on the first date because she made the mistake the first time.
She doesn't have to. I'm just sharing the guy's perspective
Yeah.
here.
I
and feeling-
understand the guy's perspective.
Because
but-
I'm bi, I date women. If a woman came to me and told me her story, my first thought wouldn't be, man, it's so unfair that I don't get sex right now. I would think, that's so awful that you went through that. I'm so sorry that you experienced
Who's saying
that
that
trauma.
something awful?
Let's wait for that.
Who's saying that something awful
What she
happened?
experienced was kind of
Abuse?
awful.
You think it was
no,
abuse?
I've never said that.
She had
Don't
a-
put words in my mouth.
Quirky hookup.
Yeah, I didn't get
situation.
any trauma or anything.
I
from
mean,
it. It was.
That's
it
not
wasn't-
trauma.
It wasn't an ideal first time.
She had consensual
I know,
sex.
but it
Why
was-
are you trying to paint it like pathologize the situation?
I'm not pathologizing the situation.
I mean, you have a tendency to do that, but go on.
Do not.
You're saying
What
what?
she
This
explained
woman
to me
has
seemed like
abuse.
it sounded like overall from what she explained, it was not an overall positive experience. It's not how I personally.
It's not abuse if you'd had
I never said it was
negative
abuse.
experience.
I never said it was abuse. I never
You
once
said trauma.
abuse. Yeah, you can get
A
trauma
ne-
from something that's not abuse.
So like having a like.
I think that
having
like,
a regretful
I don't want to
hookup,
speak. I don't want to
having
speak
a-
for
hold
her
on,
and
hold
say.
on,
I
hold
do
on.
not have
So
trauma from
having,
this.
Yeah,
It
I'm
was
not
okay,
weird
fine.
for her.
Let's say she really regretted it. Is
Yeah.
that trauma?
No.
No, and actually, having shame is a very good thing in society. We have lost the ability to have shame about things that are shameful, and you cannot grow and you cannot learn without shame and regret.
I agree.
That's exactly why I've been trying
Exactly.
to change.
It's
so.
okay.
My entire point was to not speak for her and whether her experience was traumatizing or not. My entire point was if I heard from a person that I was interested in dating that they had prior negative experiences and they said, because of my negative experiences, I want to wait until the fifth date, I would respect that. I would not
Okay,
see any
as
problem
long
with
as
that.
you're totally fine if a man had a negative experience and you're saying that the woman is not allowed to feel a certain type of way if she finds out that a guy that she's dating treated his exes in this sort of way, bought food, bought gifts, paid for dates, took her on trips, whatever it is.
I think it's like a very common thing. I think a lot of guys with their first loves, they do over pour and they do over gift and they learn from that situation and they do take steps back and they do pull back. And I think that's a very healthy response to being taken advantage of. And I'm not sitting here and saying her situation, she got taken advantage of. What you're explaining is a man who got taken advantage of by their first love. So as a result, now going into their next relationships, yeah, they probably are not going to be going all out again because they're trying to protect themselves. And I think that's a really healthy response. I think what she's what she told me, it seems like she's having a very healthy response and learning from a mistake.
Except you're including one component in here. I'm not saying in these scenarios, hypothetical scenarios, that the woman mistreated the man.
Okay.
I'm not saying that they had a bad experience because they did these things, right?
Okay.
By getting a woman gifts, paying for dates, etc.
Okay.
I'm just saying a woman might feel like, hold on, does she really care, or excuse me, does he really care about me? Because in all his other relationships, he did the most for his girlfriends. Am I just like sex to him? Does he not really care about me? Because in all his other relationships, he did XYZ. I'm not getting XYZ. Am I less important to him because of that? What's going on here?
So you would feel less important if a woman lost her virginity within 8 hours and wanted to make you wait 5 dates?
I would think it's a raw deal.
I understand. I get more what you're saying now. I get more of what Brian's point is. Like he has got a stalemate there.
Yeah, I get the point, but don't you think it's good for people to learn from their
I think
past
No, you
mistakes?
I think it's an
you can
enormous
change.
green flag
You can
because
change.
You can learn
it
from your past, but you
shows
can't
that she
change
went
it.
through a past experience and she learned from it and she grew, and that to me personally is incredibly important when you're
But
looking for a partner.
You're forgetting the arbitrary nature with which she has this standard because she stated herself that she lost her virginity
Yeah.
quickly,
Mm-hmm.
made this new guy wait 5 dates, and then after that slept with somebody quickly. It's a totally arbitrary virtue or value.
Mm-hmm.
So where is the growth there? If you make a guy wait 3 months to have sex with him, and then immediately once you break up with him, you go and a guy the first night after meeting
Yeah.
him after the breakup, you would look back at that and be like, wait, why did she went and this guy immediately, but I waited 3 months? So it was never about virtue. It was never about value. It was just some arbitrary thing. She was trying to withhold sex to get compliance from me in some way, essentially a game.
fake virtue.
No, I genuinely wasn't trying to do that. Like, I was genuinely trying to be better for
You don't
myself.
think you were?
Okay.
Did they?
Just wanted
So
to-
just so you understand, and this is that thing I was talking about earlier, where sometimes when you're talking about a situation, you think it's directed at me. It's really not directed at you. It's just parsing this idea of the perception of how a man might feel under these situations, right? So
Yeah.
I can understand how a man would feel that he was getting the raw end of the deal, or that
Yeah.
he was being emotionally manipulated, or that a woman was faking virtue.
I can understand.
Whether
I understand
whether
where
that
we're
was your
coming from.
motivation or not,
Yeah, no, I
I just
understand
assume
that
it wasn't.
perspective,
I'm
yeah.
just explaining that from the male perspective, I can understand why they would think that.
I can understand. Like, I can understand that more.